Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's living room. Thank you all for coming. Everyone in the room, all of those signing in online, hello, hello, hello. Tonight promises to be a very exciting night, a new topic for us. I know most of you, but for some of you that I may not, either online or somebody who's going to come back and watch later, I'm Danielle Hicks, and I am helper extraordinaire here at the foundation. My area of responsibility is everything that has to do with patient touch. So patient program services, education. I oversee that with an amazing team of people who are actually the ones getting all the amazing work done. So huge shout out to them too. We're excited tonight. We're gonna do it just like we always do it. We're gonna do it around the room. I'm gonna change it up a little bit tonight when we start, and I'm gonna start with this lady to my right, who doesn't ever really need any introduction, but I am gonna ask her to introduce herself. And then at the end, I will go ahead and introduce this panel. As most of you know, tonight's lung cancer living room is talking about some current legislation, what's going on right now, what it means to all of you, and how you can help. So we're very, very excited to have Elridge here from LCA and some amazing patients and caregivers who are active in this space to talk about why it's important. So with that, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Bonnie, Danielle's mother, and Andrea's mother, and Jared's mother, and Debbie's mother-in-law, who works here as well. She's not here tonight. And more importantly, a lung cancer survivor, just like so many people in this room. We, as a company, as a foundation, as lung cancer fighters, believe in collaboration, really believe in collaboration in a big way. So that's why we have an amazing representative here tonight who knows policy so much better than we do from the Lung Cancer Alliance. And then we have some patients on board that are gonna, join in the conversation. And then the people in the audience and online are gonna join in too. So welcome everybody. We're happy to have you all here. New people and old people, and I say that in an amazing way because we have some survivors here that have been surviving for a really, really long time, which is always good news for the people online and the new people in the room to see that it is possible to, survive lung cancer for, a good amount of time. Our goal is for everybody else to leave this world for some other reason. Jumping out of an airplane over a beautiful Caribbean island or something. So I'm gonna, she's rolling her eyes.
I did not. Did I roll my eyes? I chuckled and I looked left. I did not roll my eyes.
So
not this time.
Welcome everybody and let's get started.
Thanks, Mom. I'm going to start with Ron just because I haven't seen him in a while.
I know.
And we've missed him so much. You knew when you sat there that was what was going to happen.
Ron is family. Well, you're all family.
My name is Ron. I was trying to sit in the back and to have a nice nap, but I'm here now. I'm here today as a caregiver. I was a caregiver. Today I'm here as an advocate for lung cancer because absolutely right. We should make this a chronic disease that we can all do well with while we do have the disease. And so I'm excited to hear about policy. It sounds strange to be excited about policy, but without policy, we can't get funding. Without funding, we can't do research. Without research, we can't save lives. So there's just the elevator pitch.
Right.
And Ron, I just have one little question for you. When you leave here, speaking of collaboration, are there any events or places you're going to be in the next month or so that you want to share with everybody?
You can share it now. We're going to plug it later.
Yeah.
Share it now for sure.
Well, a couple things. We were just in the hallway. You were telling me all the places to go.
Ron is an advocate to be reckoned with. He is all over the place.
Are you going to a summit? Are you going to?
So, yeah.
What are you doing? I thought I lost my mind. Apparently not.
So the plug is that there is a rally going on in April in Washington, D.C. It's a live and breathe rally with a hashtag 433 a day to point out that there are 433 people a day who die of lung cancer in America every day. And that, in the words of the LAB group, it's a national epidemic. If you think about the epidemic that the president's highlighted, 93 people a day die from opioids. 433 a day die from lung cancer. So we should do something about that. And this rally is then to ask Congress if they would help support legislation that would provide more research dollars, because lung cancer is underfunded compared to other cancer types. And it's not just underfunded, period. And so if we can get more research dollars, we can do that. And then afterwards, immediately, is something called the Longevity Hope Summit in Washington, D.C. There's going to be like 400 people there, patients, caregivers, advocates, as well as people from industry and government. And it's a really interesting rally just because it's really technical, and I'm a technical kind of guy.
Yeah.
I like graphs and charts.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway,
So-
thank you for letting me do a plug. I don't know why
Well, of course, why wouldn't we?
I just want to
Yeah.
point out too, Ron talked about funding, and LCA sent over, Lung Cancer Alliance sent over a couple of graphs, and one of the infographics on here shows direct funding of lung cancer in relationship to several other cancers. So you'll see just how big sort of the federal funding problem is.
And we are going to put up a flyer toward the end of the night to show you exactly, if you want to participate in Washington, D.C., how to do that and who to call and how to register.
Yeah, or
So,
if you know somebody over there or somebody's online watching
Yeah.
that wants to participate.
Yeah.
we'll have all that.
Now, even though I'm a lung cancer advocate at this time, I'm supposed to advocate for one more thing. I told you this in the hallway. Is it okay?
yes, absolutely, always.
Go ahead.
So, I have 3 sons.
Right, right.
They're all single and available. Just saying. Thank you.
His mom wants grandchildren, so, yeah. Okay, awesome.
My name is Joanne Berridge, and I was diagnosed at stage 4 adenocarcinoma with the EGFR marker a year and a half ago, and I have been on Tarceva for a year and a half, and I'm very happy to call myself a survivor. Is that right, Bonnie? Do
That's
I
right.
qualify?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Very good,
Absolutely.
very good.
Look at you. Look at you.
And
Of course
I
you
do
are.
it.
Yeah.
I swear I'm not sick.
Right.
That's my attitude.
Yeah,
But
that's good.
I do always have to mention, for whoever is listening, whatever policy people, whatever, that this stage 4 business of being diagnosed for a year with postnasal drip and acid reflux, I hear way too often. And in fact, when I was first diagnosed, and I think I was talking to Danielle and told her about it, she said, we hear this over and over and over again. So something needs to go on with how annual physicals are done from certain ages, or whether you smoked or not, or whatever, than what's being done now, because this certainly could have been caught. As I told my primary physician, who is no longer my primary physician, you couldn't have prevented the cancer, but it didn't have to be stage 4.
That's right.
Anyway, I'm very happy with my treatment and that the Tarceva is working, and I do deal with is a better word, the side effects now and then, but nothing I can't live with. And as Dave would say, we're alive, we feel great, we're productive, and
That's right.
that's the way it is.
Awesome.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you.
I'm another Ron. I'm her husband.
Thanks, Ron.
That's all I can say, except I try to keep up with her.
That's awesome. That's great.
My name is Diane, and I was diagnosed in September of 2016, a non-small cell adenocarcinoma, EGFR positive. I was on Iressa for 9 months, and then I've been on chemotherapy since then, and currently on Avastin and Alimta.
So it was Iressa, you said?
Yes, Iressa initially.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Did they test you at progression for T790? Do you know?
They did, and I was
I feel like we
negative at
talked
that
about
time.
this. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to double check.
Hi, my name's Doug, and I'm with Diane, so I'm her support.
I'm Ina, and I've been here, I guess I've been coming here for about a year, or a little bit more than a year, maybe. I was diagnosed in December of 2014, so 3 years. But to the point of what you were saying about what we should do some screening, I never smoked, and I never had chest x-rays. And I had an accidental finding of what turned out to be stage 1. So I was eligible to have a lobectomy and a wedge resection on the lower lobe, which I've completely forgotten about. I'm in the process of doing a report for the hospital where I'm on the quality committee, and I had to go back and read all my medical records. And it was like, oh, I forgot I had all this. Because I am doing, quite well right now, and I'm just very grateful and happy to be here.
And you don't have to smoke to get lung cancer, do you?
You surely don't have to smoke to get lung
Anyone
cancer.
can get it.
Although everybody asks, of course, that's the first question.
Right.
Did you, but I think I understand that people are doing that because they're trying to feel safe for themselves. And I get that, and I think, but the stigma of it, and I think it's all, associated with the research dollars because it's something that you do yourself. And of course, we know otherwise that it's nothing to do with that. Right. And Ron number 1.
Right.
I'm really happy that you talked about that because I was going to ask the question about the April 26th rally in Washington and so many separate groups. It almost makes you want to, know is there a way to unify what's going on in the lung cancer world for everyone? This is true of lots of other organizations. There's so many.
Totally our goal, 1,000%.
Yeah, and there is a place that does a decent, not a perfect, but a decent job of it, and it's called LUNCAN, LUNCAN. And we're all the groups are members of it, and we do try to post upcoming events and what's happening next on that. It can be a challenge.
And 2 or 3 weeks ago, I can't remember now, we hosted every lung cancer foundation in the United States here.
Wow.
In this room.
Wow.
And we had an amazing couple of days. We really did. We had an amazing couple of days.
Yeah. I just want to make a comment back to the stigma. There's so many challenges, and I don't want to get off topic, and I want to finish the around the room, but one of my biggest pet peeves is, and I think everybody's, is the stigma, because there are so many different things that it affects. The folks even who did smoke, or current smokers, or who have a history of smoking. The shame, blame that they feel is what makes them not go to the doctor, not get involved in screening programs that are available for them, not be able to be diagnosed at earlier stages because they somehow feel like they need to take ownership of doing it to themselves. So it's both sides, and it's just insanely unfair. So.
But never forget, and I think Emily told me this, maybe not, but I think it was Emily a long time ago, that when somebody says, "Did you smoke?" And, we have patients all the time that ask us, what can we do? What can we do? Just me, I don't know how I can participate. What you can do when somebody says, did you smoke? That's an opportunity for you to start a conversation with whoever asked you that question to explain what lung cancer is all about, right? And, if you can get that person to walk away and say, I'm gonna spread that word, mission accomplished. Mission accomplished.
Agreed.
So instead of getting angry, turn it around and make it a positive thing.
Good. Thanks, Anna.
Well, a little birdie called Facebook made an announcement that St. Patrick's Day, Bonnie was 14 years survivor, and I think we ought to all give her a big hand. And here's to many, 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 many more.
The most important part about that is I have been alive to spend that 14 years trying to get you all 14 years and more. So I'm totally committed.
And just as obviously her daughter, but I think it's important to recognize that her story is not all that different, right, from what everybody has experienced. Misdiagnosis for a year and a half. Did it have to be? She was 3B. even at 3B, she was told there was nothing anybody could do, like all of these things, right? So it's one of the big reasons for these letters on the wall, right? It doesn't have to be hopeless, no matter what, right? It's important that you become educated and advocates for your own selves, so.
Well, I'm Sally, and aside from Facebook, this Saturday will be my 9th year of being cancer-free. I was found very early, so I'm very lucky. I had surgery, and I haven't thus far needed anything else. So I'm very happy.
But Sally, you entered an early detection program
Right.
long ago, and
Yes.
that's acquired.
Early detection is really the key.
Yep.
I knew I was at high risk, and I entered in the International Early Lung Cancer Assessment Program, or whatever it was.
ILCAP.
Yeah, the ILCAP. And it was because of that, after 5 years in that it was discovered I did have lung cancer. So I'm a big proponent of everybody being their own advocate and pushing. If your doctor tells you there's nothing wrong and you suspect it, push it and see what happens.
And Sally is a great advocate in the screening and early detection space, and she sits up with a Northern California group who are trying to make big changes in that space, so.
And she's worked
As the patient representative.
and worked with a couple of pharmaceutical companies too, and is on videos and on TV and all kinds of
The
stuff.
doctors, she's kind of famous.
Yeah, right, she's kind of famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My name is Tina, and I am a 7-year-plus survivor, thriver, and I was diagnosed in 2010, EGFR positive at stage 3B, and I did do chemo and radiation, but after treatment, I had clean scans, and they put me on Tarceva as more of a maintenance kind of thing, and that has been my life for the last several years, and I'm happy to be here.
And I'm going to say it now because you know I'm going to say it at some point.
Yeah.
Today is Tina's birthday. So,
Yeah.
So big happy birthday. to
Thank you
Tina.
very much.
We were expecting some burgers and bubbles.
Yeah. Where are the hats?
Right.
Just kidding.
No.
You guys have a
bubbles,
big
huh?
trip tomorrow. It's
Yes,
okay.
we do.
We're just happy
We'll
you're
be
here.
celebrating hopefully, weather permitting, we'll
Yeah.
be celebrating for the next 5 days.
Yeah, it's going to happen. You're getting out of here one way or another. Yeah.
So I'm Rick, and as Ron said, I've been trying to keep up with my wife for the last 7 years, as she's been battling lung cancer, right? But anyway, it's not easy to do. But I want to mention, Sally mentioned Facebook. Tina put her birthday on Facebook and got about $400 donated for the ADDARIO Center.
Woohoo! Woohoo! Thank you, Tina.
My name is, excuse me. My name is Fred Palmer, and I was diagnosed in October of 2013 with non-small cell lung cancer, and I'm currently in immunotherapy.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks, Fred. Fred's part of the family. He's been coming so long, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm new. My name is Michelle Kamekling. I was diagnosed in May 2017 last year, the day that I was supposed to be proposed to. So it was an interesting day. I was diagnosed at stage 4 with ALK mutation, and I'm currently undergoing radiation, and I'm also on crizotinib or Xalkori. And yeah, it's just been a wild ride, but we're still gonna get married, so that's exciting.
Nice.
We're gonna get married in August.
And you know, there's a closed Facebook site for people with an ALK mutation. They call themselves the ALKies.
Oh.
There's also a closed Facebook site for EGFR resistors and the Ross Wonders. And then there's a young lung group as well. So something beautiful is happening, that these groups with these various different markers are gathering together and they're reaching out for people to help them with research. We're working with the ROS1ders, the EGFR resistors, and we also have a program launching shortly for the alkies. And what do we call it, Star Trek? It's got a crazy name. It's an amazing name, but it's a good thing. People watching the patients rise up and do this and gather together and work together to help themselves is amazing.
I'm having a daughter moment right now because you looked at me and you actually asked me a question, but I wasn't listening.
What's the name of the alky study? It's
Spacewalk.
Spacewalk.
Sorry.
Spacewalk.
She was talking and I saw the lips and I was just
We're doing
I was
that
thinking
one.
about
Yeah.
something else, and what I was actually thinking was...
Yeah, and we have some information over here on the ROS1ders and the EGFR resistors. So, and it's a good thing to network.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's been hard. It's
yeah,
definitely been
yeah,
hard.
yeah.
I live in Cupertino, so it's not too far.
Yeah.
But there's not enough, I think, support.
Birds of a feather
So,
flock together,
yeah.
and it really makes a difference.
And you'd probably be surprised at how many there are.
Yeah.
So, and I don't, that was was what I was thinking while she was talking and I wasn't listening. I don't know, I know this is your first time here and I know you and I haven't spoken. I don't know if you and Michelle have spoken prior to coming here. I know you were at the Stanford support group, so it could have been Tina or Sally or somebody who kicked you in the door.
Yeah. Right. Recruited.
But I think Emily her story will be really important for you to hear tonight, and the connections that she can make for you, especially in this sort of young lung cancer space, will be big. So thanks for coming. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
My name is Esty, and excuse me, I was diagnosed in 2002, and stage 1 bronchoalveolar lung cancer, and I had surgery into my top lobe 2003. So that makes it, I think, 15 years.
Yeah.
And but since then, I had ground glass, they call it, little spots
Opacities, yeah.
discovered about 4 years ago. No, 10 years ago.
Yeah. But recently you had radiation because you had a little recurrence.
Targeted radiation on one little spot.
Right.
I have quite a few little spots.
Yep.
But they, and they say it's okay, you know.
Yeah.
But I have to go back for testing. In other words, I'm too tired to talk.
That's okay.
That's okay, sweetie.
I was rushing to get here.
That's okay.
I have to go back in 8 months. It's already 8 months next month. Next month, April, to see that it all looks okay. And
So you know what, Esty's story is very important because, you know, she's kept up her screening over the years, and when you do get to a point where you're, you know, surviving and you think you're out of the woods, keep that. Make sure you're working with a physician that's making sure you get regular scanning and early detection work, because, you know, recurrences do happen, and you know, Esty had one, and she's doing great.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. They do it with a linear accelerator.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
At Stanford.
And Esty's a good example. Esty's been an amazing advocate, and I'm so happy to see you because we haven't seen you here in a bit. And we met a long time ago before I was even here at the foundation.
Yeah.
And you know, Esty's an example of the potential for familial propensity in lung cancer. Your daughter was diagnosed before you.
Yes. Actually, we ended up with lung cancer at the same time, but I didn't want to tell her because she was in stage 4.
Yeah.
She was dying.
Yeah.
So I never told her that I also have lung cancer. It was really she lived in Golden, Colorado.
Yeah.
And they never gave her an X-ray. And so when they did, she didn't have many, she coughed.
Yeah.
And when they did, she was stage 4. So I
And to Esty's point, my mom was diagnosed after I was, and her sister and brother before I was. And when my mom passed away, we found out that we're looking through her, she had a little box of her treasures, a small box of treasures. It was very special. But in it was her father's death certificate. He died at San Francisco General. And we thought he died of pneumonia, but it said cause of death was lung cancer. Yeah, so 3 generations of lung cancer. So, right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Esty.
Yeah, we have to be on point.
It doesn't really matter who I am because Dave will be talking. I'm just Dave's wife. But I'm also the dog park wife, and I have another important job, which is that since he has to take a drug to prevent seizures, I'm his designated drinker.
Since I stopped drinking, I thought we would save some money.
There's, you know what?
I don't think we've saved
There's
a nickel.
no such thing as being just Dave's wife. No, it's a 24. This is a 24-hour job. You know,
Without a
there's
doubt.
no, yeah.
Without a doubt.
Right, yeah.
Well, for me, it's been 1 year.
Whoa.
And of course, thanks to Barb and the dog park, I stumbled upon this group slightly right around a year ago.
Yeah, we like to hang around dog parks,
Yes,
just,
and
to
so
gather in.
anyway, I was adenocarcinoma, stage 4. I turned 60 this year, so that gives you, I was 59 when I was diagnosed. And I was tested for EGFR and was positive, and so I've been on Tarceva now for a year. Also had metastases, 6 of them in the brain. So I was lucky enough to get the SRS, the stereotactic radiosurgery. That's a mouthful, right? The whack-a-mole. And from that, I actually, several months later, there was a little swelling that occurred. Some of you have heard this story, but I had a focal seizure, which lasted about 5 minutes where I couldn't speak. And that was in October. So it was March that I was diagnosed, had the SRS in April, end of March, April. And then it wasn't until October that this swelling had occurred and that I had this seizure.
Yeah.
So it only happened once. It hasn't happened again. And but I do have my little magic pill with me. And Barb's got one in case she's around also. And I wear a little medical, thing on the wrist. So if it could go to worse at some point, or it can never happen again. Kind of hard to say. Anyway, I also brought in 2 things today. One is if any of you have dry mouth from all the different drugs that we take, I brought in these little Act Dry Mouth lozenges, which I love and have gotten from my dentist, but feel free to come in, grab a handful, and see if you like them. And then I also brought in a brochure from Stanford YMCA, do a joint Living Strong, Living Well program for people who have gone through treatments, have lost a lot of strength, body strength, and this is a program for free for cancer patients, all types, where you can work out at a variety of YMCAs for, I think it's 3 months, and there's no charge. And I did this maybe 6 months ago. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
So I never went through chemo, so I didn't have that kind of reaction as far as the loss of strength and weakness. But I did lose about 30 pounds pretty much in the first 90 days.
And your wife is not complaining. She's not.
No,
Yeah.
actually, I had to go out and buy new jeans, Been a long time buying jeans the other way, after 30 years of inching up. So anyway, the new body has worked out okay. But this program is very, very good if any of you are dealing with any of the strength issues or just want to learn how to work out.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to Dave. Dave is he's so awesome when he comes here and he brings these little sort of food for thought and tidbits, and if it's helpful for anybody, then I absolutely invite anybody else to bring anything that you want or that you think might help other people in the group, either in the room or online, to do that, because I think it's important, and that's what this meeting's about, so thank you.
Well, and I'll share one more thing, one last. Last year I was in the walk in San Francisco, and I was stunned at the response that the fundraising was able to achieve.
Yeah.
And so this year I decided, well, I was born and raised in Chicago. I've been out here since 1980, but I still have friends and family back there. and I saw that we're doing a walk in Chicago.
Yes,
and
we
so
are.
I signed up.
Yeah,
And we're over $1,000 already.
Whoa, yay.
Awesome.
Yes.
Me and one
That's
other
awesome.
walker. So-
That's
but a lot of people have said they're going to sign up.
I love the word "we" because it really is about we, right?
Yes.
And it is about collaboration, and it's about your drops and sharing information about what makes surviving lung cancer doable.
Yes.
You know, because we need to be healthy and feeling good while we're surviving. You know, it's
I lost my stepdad in 2002 to lung cancer. I lost my mom in 2005 to lung cancer. And when I was diagnosed, I thought, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a chance. I've seen two of them die.
Yeah.
And I had no idea the changes of what had happened in the drug world.
Yeah.
And so I was lucky enough. But my mom could have been EGFR. They just weren't testing for it.
Right,
I even asked for her
exactly.
records at Eisenhower in Palm Springs.
Exactly.
And they don't keep records that long. So they
And-
get rid of them.
And oh, by the way, and I don't want to steal your thunder. No, you, our guest speaker. Over the weekend, on Friday, CMS passed, we got approval for payment for testing for lung cancer for genomic profiling to be paid by CMS.
What's CMS?
CMS is Medicare.
Okay.
And you know what? Once Medicare does it, they all follow. So this is the greatest news for lung cancer in a decade. In a decade.
Yeah, and it's NGS specifically.
immunotherapy,
So
yeah.
it is a big deal because what we talk about and what we always try to get to is, or one of our biggest complaints was that molecular testing for lung cancer has historically not been reflexive. In other words, they test for one mutation at a time. So by the time they're just into the 3, maybe 4 that they're testing for, you're 3 weeks out per test, between 1 and 3 weeks out per test, depending upon what test they're doing. So now you're 3 months out from diagnosis and you haven't even been treated yet, right? Not to mention the whole thing about next generation sequencing, where it's that deep dive that you guys have all heard us talk about. So it is.
It's huge. It's huge. And it's going to open up doors because 80% of lung cancer patients, well, actually all cancer patients, are treated in the community hospitals. And the community docs haven't been recommending genomic profiling because they're terrified that they're not going to get reimbursed. They're going to get charged, but they're not going to get reimbursed. So now they have no excuse not to recommend genomic profiling for patients, which is, huge, absolutely huge, because lung cancer is a very mutated cancer, and every single one of you is different. I love seeing the EGFR resistors pulling together and the Ross Wonders and all those people. But even among those groups, each one is still different. So this testing is huge to have at every turn of your cancer as you progress and as things happen to keep us going.
And not just for the targets. I mean, you look at the use of immunotherapy nowadays and what that is, where that started, very recently, and how far it's come very quickly.
Absolutely.
And where it's moving very quickly. So for those folks who may not have a targeted mutation, what that looks like. So it's exciting.
And also, for anybody listening, chemo is not a bad thing. Chemo works for patients. It does, right, Ron? So don't feel like, it's all over if chemotherapy is your only option, because it works. It worked for me. I'm still here. So, there's something for everybody out there, so we have to stay positive and keep searching. And we're on it. We're on it in a big way.
Thanks, guys. Michelle, does anybody online want to say hello before I move to this panel?
Everyone said happy birthday, Tina. And congratulations, Bonnie. And then Laura just wanted to point out that the ALK Positive Facebook group has close to 1,000 members.
Yes. That's a lot. That's a lot. We can accrue a trial in an hour, and 80% of clinical trials fail because they can't get patients on board. So it's huge. That's awesome. Go Alkies.
Thanks, guys. So with that, thank you all for sharing your stories. Did we? I think everybody's saying no in the back. We're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Please.
Then, spinning off of Rick talking about the funds raised for Tina's birthday, that's wonderful, and Dave talking about raising some in Chicago, I don't have the check with me yet, but my daughter, who's usually with me, but tonight she's at her son's baseball game, they celebrated International Pie Day at Natera, the biotech company down the road where she works, and she was one of the organizers, and she designated ADDARIO to be the recipient of the funds. And it did amount to $800 of the employee or the administrators throwing pies at the higher ups, whatever they did. She showed me pictures. It was hilarious. Anyway,
great. I love that.
You do have a check coming from Natera.
That's awesome. Thank you.
That's great.
And throwing pies at your boss is always worth, and
I don't know where the event's
President
but my
of the-
wheels
yeah.
are spinning. Yeah,
Right.
That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah.
Well, just saying. So with that, I'm going to move to this group. I'm going to ask everyone to introduce themselves for the patients and caregivers to tell a little bit about their stories. I could read it from a piece of paper in bios, but I think it's so much more meaningful when you're hearing it from them. So I'm going to ask Roslyn to start just because you're on that end. If you'll tell us who you are.
I'm Roslyn Spruit. I'm actually the wife of Francis. And I was his caregiver during his treatment in 2007 and 2008.
Francis Spruit, 10-year survivor since last December.
Emily Bennett Taylor. I'm as of last month, a 5-year survivor, 5 years cancer-free, no evidence of disease. I was diagnosed when I was 28 with stage 4 adenocarcinoma, non-small cell. I went through chemotherapy and was lucky enough to find a surgeon who did an extrapleural pneumonectomy and removed my right lung, and then radiation, and yeah, it was 5 years ago.
You want to talk, just because it's such a good story, you want to talk about the baby a little bit? just for a second.
Yeah, sure. I'm always happy to talk about my babies. We went through fertility preservation before I started treatment. We were able to sneak that in while we were waiting for genomic testing, which was a little bit different 5-6 years ago. But then when I was 2 years cancer-free after surgery and everything, we put out an ask to friends and family, and my high school track coach actually stepped forward and offered to be our surrogate. So in April of 2016, she had our twin daughters, Maggie and Hope. So.
And Emily's story is so important because, they had the foresight to actually do that with the embryos. And you would think that with breast cancer, that was discussed with every woman that was diagnosed with breast cancer, but it's not. And, and it should be.
Only 14% of oncologists, or only 14% of young patients of childbearing age are given any sort of information about fertility preservation when they're diagnosed with cancer.
Exactly. So
we were lucky that someone had mentioned it to us.
Big shout out to the fact that whatever cancer you have, if you're a female, you should be, that should be a discussion you have with your oncologist and your doctors, and because, you shouldn't be ruled out to be a parent, and let that stop that from happening. So,
and that goes back to shared decision making, which you guys have heard us talk about in here.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And those babies are just so cute.
I'm partial, I agree.
They're incredible.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, great. So it's my turn. Elridge Proctor. I'm pleased to just be here with all of you, and thank you to Danielle and Bonnie for having me here in the living room. This is my first living room, everyone. So I'm LCA's Director of Health Policy. I've been with the organization for over a year, and prior to that, I was the Vice President of Public Policy for the Tourette Association, a very stigmatized neurological disorder that many people think can be helped, that it's a self-doing act, much like lung cancer, where patients are blamed for their condition. Tourette syndrome was very much not well understood, and patients were always either misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed, and there was a journey to getting that diagnosis. So having had that opportunity to work and serve that community for about 12 years, I'm bringing all of that here to the lung cancer community with the same passion for advocacy, which is what I'm here to talk to you about.
Thank you, Elridge. And that's okay. For this next part, I am going to read, so forgive me for the head down on the paper, but I think it's important, and I by no means would be able to remember any of this. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the LCA Lung Cancer Alliance and our partnership. And I know most of you in the room are familiar with the Lung Cancer Alliance, as well as some of the other groups out there that are working hard every day, just like we are. And we're insanely grateful for our partnership and the relationship we have with all of them, particularly with the Lung Cancer Alliance. So the LCA has worked hard for well over a decade, for those of you who may not know, to bring the issue of lung cancer as a disease to the forefront of the minds of members of Congress, staff, national media, and other public health leaders. LCA is responsible for putting the ball in motion and crafted first ever legislation calling for lung cancer to be made a national public health priority, which I think is a big, big point to make. You look at, well over a decade, but and we talk a lot about, moving towards half a century, if not more, since the needle has even started to move forward in lung cancer, and that it's been a really short amount of time that this thing on a federal level has been paid attention to. They continue to advocate for a better coordinated and comprehensive plan of action to increase research funding and ensure access to preventative services and high-quality, affordable care. Working with patients, survivors, and caregivers across the country, they have built an army of grassroots advocates. This work has paid off, as today tens of millions more dollars are being directed to federal research funding. Lung cancer screening has been approved and is now a covered health benefit, and the lung cancer community's voice has a seat at the table when decisions about healthcare delivery are being made, so that a patient-centered system emerges. This truly benefits the people. Today, we're going to learn more about why advocacy matters, more about recent policy efforts that focus specifically on lung cancer's impact on women. And I was joking earlier with Ron, because we know at the end of the day, and this is a joke, but that women we're kind of the bosses, and we kind of make the rules. So to put a focus on women, not only the disparity that's there when you look at incidence in women and lung cancer, but also our ability to get the ball rolling.
And and all that's true, but lung cancer in men and lung cancer in women is different. And it needs to be looked at because it responds differently. It's different. And we need to treat every single patient personally. This is the decade of personalized medicine, where, yes, it's your genomic breakdown, but it's also everything else. It's your familial association with the cancer you have. It's your environment. It's the job you may have had. You may have been a fireman. You may have had radon under your house. You may have had 9,000 other things. This is the time that personalized medicine is really coming into play.
There was a recent study just published around women and lung cancer about women and their use of cleaning products. And the association of that back to lung cancer diagnosis.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
We're spritzing and spraying.
That's why I don't clean the house.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
You even look at dry cleaners. We bring our clothes to the dry cleaners, and then we put them on and we absorb the chemicals. Pesticides, we're breathing those. We're no matter how much a state or a country gets into global warming and recycling and all of those things, we're still breathing everything from around the world. It's circling the globe. So this really needs to be a global issue. But we're breathing stuff every day. And, you know, those things are triggers for all cancers, not just lung.
There's a ton of unknown variables for sure.
Exactly.
Across the board. So before I go into the queue to sort of the questions for our panel, I want to remind everybody in the room that it's open forum. Please ask questions throughout. Grab a mic, raise a hand, yell my name if I don't happen to see you, because we really want to have that interactive conversation happening the whole time. Goes for the same for the folks that are signing in online. Please, please, please do not hesitate to ask questions. So with that, you talked a little bit, we're going to start with Elridge. So you talked a little bit about your background, but can you talk a little bit about the policy focus that you bring to LCA?
Absolutely. So having worked with a community of volunteers, patients, for me, it has been a very focused on self-advocacy. Teaching self-advocacy and then having you to apply that. When you think about the concept of precision medicine, well, you have to apply the same concept to bringing values to what members of Congress are actually taking action. So members of Congress are making decisions, they're offering up and proposing what they, in their minds, assume to be the best way to represent you. But without understanding what you care about the most, what's most critical in your household, and what it is that you value in the decision making that Congress is actually taking action on, they can't represent those views. So for me, the focus that I bring to LCA is really advocacy strategies to help amplify the voice of the lung cancer community, in also addressing our critical areas of concerns, which have been federal funding. In my background, I actually have had a number of years in appropriations, which is getting federal funding through the appropriations process. And so we've got key initiatives. As you may know, Lung Cancer Alliance was instrumental in establishing a pipeline at the Department of Defense known through the congressionally directed medical research program. There's actually lung cancer research being conducted. While it is focused on the military, it has benefits to the entire broader community. And so increasing funding there is a specific area, the focus, where each and every single one of you can help to continue to increase that line item. And then in addition to that, we're working to bring more of a focus to the research that the NIH, National Institute of Health, and its institute, National Cancer Institute, is actually conducting in lung cancer. As you may know, Lung Cancer Alliance years ago was instrumental in getting Congress to pass federal legislation that then instructed NCI, National Cancer Institute, to develop a research framework that would address small cell lung cancer, because again, the effort has been to go to where there are unmet needs and to address where no one else is addressing. And so small cell, there was nothing there. There was no establishment there's no drugs, there's no answers there. It's been very low in terms of a coordinated plan to address that. So there's been some gains for the community. There's been some historical achievements, but I think our focus needs to continue to be to drive the message home, drive your voices, bring you to your members of Congress. So a strong effort in your self-advocacy, which would then amplify the voice and help to establish some of the unmet areas that we're working towards today.
Yeah, local becomes national.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you said, and I'm like, if you and I have had several conversations about this, and I'm the first to admit I don't know a ton about how this works. I remember the cartoons from when I was a kid about the bill on Capitol Hill, but I really, when it comes down into the diving into the details, I really don't know how it works. So you mentioned, your congressmen and women needing to hear from you, the patients, the caregivers, the people who are living it and doing it. What do you mean?
So if you think about every day, you may have conversations with your physician. When you go into the doctor's office, it becomes more of a Q&A. They may ask you to fill out paperwork, or they may simply ask you, how are you feeling today? They rely on the information that you provide to them as intake. That intake is how they go about diagnosing you, or thinking about the types of tests that they might want to run on you. It's how they collect their information to become informed of your current status, how you're doing for the day. So if you think about your members of Congress and the roles that they're in, they hear from people each and every day. They represent large constituencies. And so when you walk into their offices, or if you call them, or if you, however way you choose to make contact, there are a number of ways that you can do that. You can do it from this living room. You can do it simply on your cell phone. There are a number of ways that we can talk about these ways. But it's you providing to them ways that lung cancer impacts you most personally and what you'd like to see as an outcome. How do you want to be supported? How do you want to be represented in Congress? These are your representatives that you elected. What is it that you want to make most critical and most important to them to take up each and every day in their chambers?
Can I insert on that?
Absolutely, Francis.
So we started doing this about 8 years ago, where we first, through LCA, started meeting our representatives, our district representatives and our senators. Not those people per se. Oftentimes you just meet with an aide or a medical aide or whatnot. But what we found was that they actually have no clue as to, how many people actually die per year of lung cancer. They have no idea. They see all kinds of pink marches fly by and all kinds of other things. So we get into their offices and we have to share our own stories. And there's like literally a few hundred of us that arrived there on one of these summits. Mm-hmm. And so you have to tell your story. That's almost the easy part. But what you find is just almost they don't understand what's going on. But we've done this now 4 times now, I think, right? And we found that it takes a lot of repetition for these people to finally get it. It's like, oh, that is the largest cancer that we have to deal with. And oh, look, there's a discrepancy in funding. Lung cancer gets roughly $1,400 per death, as opposed to, I think, breast cancer is well in the 20,000s.
Right. 23.
Those are just numbers on a piece of paper.
23.
But if we walk into that office and give those numbers a face and a story, that's when they finally start getting it. And that's why we're here tonight, because every single one of you can walk into your district offices and tell your story and convince them that we need to fix things. There's a funding disconnect that needs to get fixed. That's one of them, right?
And to your point, it's a federal issue, but it's also a state issue. Yeah. You have to get your state and your cities and your counties behind you, right?
Absolutely.
That's what you're saying.
So what works best, go to your representative's office. Don't even make an appointment. That's what we did. Roslyn said, local. Roslyn says, we were pissed off for other political reasons. We just went into that office and we basically met Mel, and he was like, oh, and this and that. And so we got to know him a little bit, and now we're buddy with Mike Thompson, our district guy. And he just last year, he joined the Lung Cancer Caucus.
And Thompson's a good guy.
And Thompson is a good guy.
He's a good guy.
So go to your guys, knock on their doors, and tell them you want to see things changed. And it doesn't take one visit. It takes 5, 10 visits of 20 different people going to that same office, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's so important, and that's one of the things that I love about sharing the story. And as you're talking, Francis, I'm even thinking about, Joanne, about your story, and you're not alone in this, but going back to your primary care physician and saying, it didn't have to be stage 4. If you'd have been paying attention, those are the types of stories, right, that
they need to hear them.
They need to hear, right? And that's why it's so important that you not only share them here, but in other places. And to Francis's point, whether it's going to your state capitol, your local representatives, or marching on DC, which we had the benefit of doing this year, and it was my first time. And I was nervous, I'm not gonna lie, I was really nervous about it. But there's this adrenaline rush, and it's very exciting all at the same time. So
we were there,
really
we were there, on point. And I've been in Sacramento doing the exact same thing. And it's eyes wide open.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to the day that it's not eyes wide open, that they go, oh, we're aware of that. What can we do to help?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I think
That it's
and
not
we'll-
shocking.
Yeah, and we also recognize that it's not that easy for everybody to just run up to Sacramento or you know, wherever their capital may be.
Yeah.
But there are other ways that we're gonna discuss.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are a number of ways that you can reach your representatives. Through our website, there's one, as an example, we have an action center, and directly with just the click of your mouse, you can send a form letter to your members of Congress, and the letter allows you to personalize it, to include your personal story, and to state your specific reasons for your ask. So that's one way. Another way is you can pick up the telephone and just call the Capitol switchboard. Literally, the number, you can find it on the website, but anybody who wants to jot it down, it's actually 202-224-3121, and ask to be transferred to your representatives, and you'll be able to speak with them. Other ways are through joining these various summits that you've heard, and opportunities through your local organizations where you can join their Hill Days, or whether it's state visits. You can go to your local district offices and schedule appointments with them. And I think one of the examples you're hearing from Francis is that your members do want to hear from you. So if you happen to just show up, they wouldn't turn you away. They will try to accommodate and meet with you, or at least take in the information that you're providing to them. So there is a willingness to listen to you and to have you come and visit with them. Because at the end of the day, they need you to go and cast your vote midterm elections. Don't forget that.
And you know what you're saying is you don't even have to leave your home to make a difference. You know, because we talk to patients every day that say, what can I do? You know, and not everybody can do what LCA has done, or what we've done, or longevity, or any of these other people have done. Everybody can do something, and you don't even have to leave home to do it. Makes sense.
Yeah, which I think is huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
So I want to break in a little bit tonight, before I ask the question. We made photocopies for everybody, and if there's not enough on the tables in front of you, there should be some more on the piano. If not, we're happy to make more. But it's a copy of the bill that we're gonna talk a little bit about tonight. And so I want to ask Elridge to specifically give us a little information about the Women in Lung Cancer Research and Preventive Services Act. What is it outlining? What does it mean? What is it hoping to do?
Absolutely. So a little bit of history. This is, of course, before my time, but it's a wonderful story to share with you. This is LCA's story. So in working with Brigham Women's Hospital, information was brought forth. Brigham Women released a report in 2014 titled Out of the Shadows, where it was just eye-opening in terms of the gap between women and men, looking at gender differences. Then in 2016, they updated that report, entitled it Lung Cancer, a Women's Health Imperative. That cast a national attention on the impact that lung cancer has on women. And for us, we don't see the issue as, and I'll say this, only as a women's issue. Women's issues actually are family issues, because we're mothers, we're daughters, we're sisters, we're grandmothers. So that's a family matter, just to make sure that that's clear. The initiative of actually taking the information that came out of the report, then using it to influence members of Congress to introduce legislation, is really a pathway that LCA sought to increase research that would then benefit the entire community. There is a focus that is specifically on women and lung cancer, but it's also highlighting women and never smokers. So that's one of the intentions of the legislation. It's to increase research, but it's also to increase access to preventive services for a population that otherwise would never receive that opportunity, and also to create a national public awareness campaign to educate the public about lung cancer. We need to know, again, that lung cancer is a women's health imperative. And right now, we need to educate people about the fact that screening is available. We need more people at risk to go and get screened, and we need to make a greater effort at intensifying the research that's being done. So what this legislation does, it calls for a review of past research, looking at what has been done and what's currently happening, then examining that, and then looking at gender gaps, then bring all of that together, asking the agencies, which would be Health and Human Services, the Secretary of HHS, to then report back to Congress on its findings. And along with that report that it would submit to Congress, it then has to provide key recommendations on how to move us forward, again, in increasing research in lung cancer, access to preventive services, and creating this public health education campaign.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So the focusing on women, I understand, the focusing on never smokers and the preventative nature, where, like, how?
Well, and that's the gap. So you have
yeah.
so you have never smokers who right now would never benefit from prevention, which is where a lot of the efforts
Right.
are. They also do not meet the criteria that are set forth for screening for preventive services, right? So if we can better understand what's missing, why are never smokers developing lung cancer? That's why a study is needed. That's why we need to look at where the gap is in past and current research to understand what are we missing, and then looking at that and making sure that they benefit from this life-saving preventive service so that we can identify them at earlier stages rather than late stages.
Right. And, is it lung cancer early detection screening is the only one that is, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the only one that has barriers to getting the test. Everybody else, it's age only. If you hit a certain age, you can go get a colonoscopy, you can go get a mammogram, you can get a PSA test, you can get blah, 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 blah. But lung cancer is only for smokers. Or maybe if you can prove you have a familial, attachment to it.
It's smoking. It's at 56 or 55 is the number.
55, yeah.
You have to have smoking, to have smoked.
Right.
A family.
It's a 30-pack year.
And to have quit
30 pack
for a
years.
number of
If you have 20 pack years, you're not even.
So, and we know from the New England Journal of Medicine that says, the biggest cause of heart disease is smoking. The biggest cause of vascular disease is smoking. And then you've got COPD, and you've got emphysema, and then you have 31 cancers.
I think one of the things that to point out about this bill that is will be insanely relevant and helpful when it comes to the screening space, right? So we know screening and the criteria around who qualifies is not where it needs to be. But we finally have something, and we're not mad about finally having something.
Absolutely.
But what does concern me is that even with what we do have, only roughly 4% of the people that qualify are actually being screened. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole other thing here. But this act, right, or this bill opens up the doors to step outside of that very, very small box of who qualifies right now, although they're highest risk population. Hopefully it will help to break down some of those other barriers, like only 4% of those people qualifying now getting screened. So, sorry. I just wanted to throw that out.
Totally.
I want to pause here and see if anybody has any questions right now about anything that's been said, specifically about anything that Francis has brought up about what can be done, about what Elridge has said about the online stuff or how to participate. We're definitely going to revisit that again more sort of towards the end. Or more importantly about the bill, because I think I think this is a great thing. Is it perfect, and is it exactly what everybody would want, that everybody could fit into this box? No, but if you really take a deep dive look at what this means moving forward and look at it as a starting point and the multitude of other things it could affect that could really get that wheel spinning faster down the road, it's huge.
Yeah, and I'd like to add something to that too. If you currently search bills that have been introduced, you will not find anything else on lung cancer. This is a lung cancer specific federal legislation. And let me just remind you too, it's bicameral. It was introduced in both the House and the Senate by bicameral members of Congress. So you have senators who have introduced their version, and you have House representatives who have introduced their versions. We're having both a Democrat and a Republican agreeing with one another in such a time as this. So this is remarkable to have specific federal legislation on lung cancer. So we're making history because of advocates, the voices of you. So I just thought it was important for you to hear that and to be encouraged. This is one step towards our future in increasing our efforts together.
So before I move on and ask Emily and Francis some questions that relate to them and sort of what role they are currently or would like to play, I want to revisit what individuals can do specifically to support this legislation, and slowly, so that Rocky can, I always look up at the screen when I'm talking to Rocky, I don't know why.
Yeah, I know, 'cause he's
Rocky,
in
for some of you online, or most of you in the room know,
Yeah.
Rocky's the guy in the back. He's back there with Cody right now,
Saying we have
because Rick couldn't
49
be here.
minutes left, too.
Yeah, we have 45 minutes left in the
Yeah.
meeting. But I want to make sure that we get this up there and that people really understand how they can be a part of it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I don't need anything. Oh, no, sorry. All I need is Elridge to talk a little bit about what individuals can do to support this, and then give out that phone number and the website and everything else as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So at this time, one of the ways to be able to move and advance the legislation, we need more members of Congress to support it. The way they do that is by co-sponsoring the bill. It's an internal, easy process for them. What they need is to hear from you. They need you to make the ask and call your representatives and say, hey, I'm concerned about lung cancer research. I'd like my representative to co-sponsor the Women in Lung Cancer Research and Preventive Service Act of 2018. And just simply making that ask, your members of Congress will contact the sponsors of this bill and sign up to co-sponsor it. You can, again, go to the website, lungcanceralliance.org. And we have a legislation landing page with all sorts of information. You can access that Brigham Women's Report that I talked about. You can also access a FAQ sheet that we developed that talks a little bit more about the legislation. In addition to that, you can actually read the text of it, which you have in front of you. You can also, right there, contact your members of Congress through that action center that we talked about. There is a form letter that is provided for you. You just simply need to click, and that's how you sign your name, and members of Congress will receive it in their mailbox. You can call, again, the Capitol switchboard, which is the 202-224-3121, and ask to be transferred to your representative. They'll simply ask for your zip code, locate who your members of Congress are, and just connect you directly. And again, you can make that ask and say, hello, I'm calling from your district. My name is such and I care about lung cancer research. I would like for you to co-sponsor HR 4897, or simply reference the name, the Women in Lung Cancer Research and Preventive Service Act of 2018. That's all you have to do.
Is there a limit on how many times you can call?
Call as many times as you would like to. And you know what's wonderful about it? Solicit your friends, your family. As an individual does not need to have lung cancer to make this call or to take action. Invite friends from church, community centers, wherever. Just bring on the fight.
So I just want to confirm the number, because then I'm going to hand it over to Jen to bring back to Rocky so we can make sure we get it up on the screen. But it's, oh, he's already got it. 202-224-3121. So that's the phone number for those in the room, those online, and anybody who comes back and watches this post-live meeting. So important. And to Emily's point, call as many times as you want. When you're home, because you don't have a ride. Right, just pick up the phone.
Yeah. And it's HR 4897.
Yeah, and if you guys in the room need to write it down afterwards, I think most of you have pens in front of you, but we can make it available after as well. I think I already mentioned a few of, and these are just a few of the statistics about women in lung cancer, some of the statistics about what's really going on when it comes to federal funding. If this doesn't make you angry, you know, I don't know. You know, it's really hard, and there are so many things. Francis, you said it earlier. This is one piece of a way bigger pie, but it's got.
And also, it comes back to repetitive action. It's really an incremental progress we're looking for. There's all these starting points, but we have to move that boulder up the hill.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a long haul, and we need people. We basically need people to visit, call, and whatnot. As
we
many
need
as
them
possible.
locally and federally. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's sort of when we look back at even the breast cancer movement, when you get these masses of people, right, and they can no longer turn their heads, right, and pretend like it's not there. Dave, you have a question?
You said you could contact them as often as you want. Do they take your name and number?
They have to, actually.
Yes.
They do?
They have to.
So if you call every day for a month.
They'll start noticing.
They'll start noticing.
They'll remember you,
Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually more important than anything. You know, one call, You know, I mean, you know how we are just normally, you know, when somebody's bugging us on the phone. But if somebody's calling every day, it's like, oh, maybe this is important.
Well, if I can add the old adage of the squeaky wheel gets the grease, is exactly how our government works.
Yes, right.
And becoming active with Lung Cancer Alliance really opened my eyes and educated me in a big way. I just want to ask, how many people here have ever contacted their congressman?
Do online petitions.
Now that's.
I think I had to in high school for a government
So,
class, you know? Yeah.
I want to come back here in a few months and I want to see every hand in the air because these people work for us. We're the way that they come to decisions is by what we go and ask them for.
Yes.
So it's really important that they hear our voice as often as possible.
Roslyn, I think that's such an important point because just like many of us in the room, myself included, prior to my mom being diagnosed, lung cancer wasn't really something I thought about, let alone how these changes are made, right? Is not something that I've given a lot of thought to, which is why it's so important that we're having this meeting tonight because, I mean, really that's where a majority of the change starts, right? If you can get our government behind it, things will start to happen.
But they have to be educated first.
Yeah.
And how do you know who are the co-sponsors?
So I can tell you that tonight, but it's also on the text of the bill. Someone just showed me that she looked it up. Very good. So the sponsors of the legislation in the Senate side is Senator Marco Rubio from Florida and Dianne Feinstein of right here, California. And the House of Representatives, it is Congressman Lo Biondo from New Jersey and Congressman Nolan from Minnesota. And I'm not sure if you are aware, there is a personal connection for each of these members.
Yes.
And that's where their interest comes from.
Yes.
But it also is helpful to them having their constituents say, we support your work, we support you leading this effort.
Yeah, I can speak for Dianne Feinstein. She has been a promoter and somebody following lung cancer for decades, and she has multiple connections. I would like to share a little story. Danielle and I, years ago, went to Sacramento because there was a bill being passed in California to allocate $50 million towards lung cancer. And we had a young man come up from Southern California to go with us, and we were in Mark Leno's office talking directly to him, who is now running for mayor in San Francisco.
It comes to all of our galas.
Comes to all of our events. And we were in there, and it was probably, I don't know, a time when the markets were going crazy and there was no money and whatever. So I do remember, though, us talking to him, and especially the patient we brought with us, who was a young guy, and who told his story. And Mark literally had tears in his eyes. And he said, you know, this bill is going to pass, but there's no money to put in it. And he felt so horrible about that because he heard the story from this young man. And us. It works, it does work. There's money now. There's tons of money everywhere. Who knows how long it's going to last? We don't know. But
we left the middle of a family vacation.
We left vacation to go up there to do this. So it works. It really works. They're people before they're politicians.
So besides advocating yourself and inviting your friends and family to go call these people, I would also recommend going to your local town council. Most of them are broadcast on cable and they're broadcast live, and they usually have a public forum that you can speak. You get 2 minutes typically, maybe less, maybe more, but you can write, and just it's your right in this democracy to just go up and say something. So you can go up and say, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Mayor, I would like to tell you about this effort that I'm advocating. And sometimes when you get your time, they don't comment on it necessarily. Sometimes they will, but if we can get more support like that, that's always really good. It's more publicity that's free. I don't know why people watch council meetings, but they do.
Well, and you know what? Penn TV, who is, thank God, creating our live stream, does a lot of those. So, you have access to.
Yeah, and not only do local public access channels, or I'm not sure what they're called, don't slap me on the wrist, but folks like Penn TV are all around the country, right? Thanks, Mom. And they not only will, quite often be the ones filming those local meetings, but they also have local television, like Danny's program, where advocates and business professionals and whoever from around the county can come in and tell their story, and then they will play that. And I think most of you know, Penn TV plays each month's living room over and over and over all month long. Until the next one comes out. So
24 hours a day.
It's a yeah, 24/7.
Danielle and I have been, this is a true story. Danielle and I were having dinner, or we were actually having a cocktail before dinner over in Half Moon Bay, and somebody came up to us and said, "Are you the cancer girls on Penn TV?" And we said,
she bought us a drink.
We said, "Yes, we are." She said, "Can we buy you a drink?" She said, "Of course."
And it was really interesting because her husband had passed away from lung cancer some 15 years ago, but she's like, "I still watch you guys all the time." So anyway.
So can I just add one more thing?
Yes, please.
No. To your point about the local reach, another one that hasn't been mentioned tonight is your local media. This is a way to not only educate your surrounding community, but also to capture the attention of all local politicians, and certainly the federal politicians who are concerned about that local media's opinion. You can do letters to the editor, or you can simply track what's being said, and you can do rebuttals. But some kind of way you can reach your local media and utilize that platform to speak also to your members.
Yep.
So consider that.
Great. Great.
And you're all experts now about public speaking. You can all do it, and your stories are all amazing. They really are.
Michelle, does anybody have anything online before I move on? No? Okay, so with that, I'm gonna, and I know we've had a little bit of interaction from some of the other panelists, but I wanna take a deeper dive. So Francis, if you could, you shared a tidbit of your story, but if you could share a little bit more and then tell us how and why you chose to become an advocate.
Sure. So I usually tell a little bit of the story because I always feel like I'm a lightweight in a room of heavyweights. I was stage 1B 10 years ago. I had a right upper lobectomy on Christmas Eve of 2007. My surgeon said, "I'm sure you don't want it scheduled on Christmas Eve." And I said, "Well, yeah, I do. I want." That was the best
That's
Christmas.
the soonest you can do it?
Yeah, let's go get it done. And then, so I stayed in the hospital for 3 weeks, and then after that, I had chemotherapy in the spring of 2008. As I said, I'm not a lightweight.
I just want to point out that that's not a lightweight. When it's really not. And I mean, again, going back to statistics and what this looks like,
Sure.
the percentage of early stage patients who do exactly what you did that recur is astronomical, right? So it's still not okay. Anyway, sorry.
Please. How I got involved with advocacy was really very accidental. I ran into, you may know her, Joanne Granzella at a lung cancer alliance table in San Francisco. They had
It was the cancer conference that UCSF had held a couple of years in a row.
Yes, I know exactly.
I ran into Joanne, and I didn't know that she was actually looking at me as, being her replacement as a chapter person for Lung Cancer Alliance. One thing led to another, and we went to DC for the first time in, I think it was in 11 or 12, I can't remember. And I encourage all of you to at least do that once, to go to DC, meet with not even your own representatives, but maybe your state people. We met people from Southern California and whatnot. But the point here is meet with them, share your story, and tell them how important it is for them to work for us for the lung cancer cause. It's a very straightforward conversation you have. What it did for us was we started understanding the process a lot better. We had excellent support from the Lung Cancer Alliance. They prep you, they tell you what to say, they tell you who you're going to meet, and there's this whole schedule. And so you're right, you're totally intimidated. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to walk through the hallways of power. Right? Actually, when you have the meeting, you're the one who's in power. You're the one who's telling the story. You're the one that matters. They actually have to listen to you, and it's often it's an aid. But like the second or third time, we met this guy from, Barbara Boxer's office, the aide, and he recognized us. He said, oh, there's Roslyn and Francis again. and those are important touch points. Those are important meetings. It's not that a law is passed that same year, but it's moving the small increment. It's making it move.
Yeah, what I will say is there is something insanely powerful about it.
Yeah.
Once you get past, feeling like a teenager who's getting pulled over by the police for the first time, you're just like, it's the authoritative sort of thing. And you really just step back and realize that these are people just like you and I, right? Yep. And Elridge mentioned, a few who have been personally affected by this. They're people. They're people in high power, but at the end of the day, they put their heads on their pillows just like we do. They worry, they stress, they get sad, they get angry just like we do. So
They get cancer.
Yeah, they get cancer just like we do.
We do what we do because we care, obviously. I mean, you guys were in the room when I cried in front of Thompson's aide. It's the unfairness of the situation that teaches us all, should touch us all very deeply. And we all have our story. We all have a very compelling story to tell. And that's what we need to get across to those people who are actually in their positions of power.
And that's how it becomes a national issue. It has to become a national issue for it to get the recognition that it needs.
Yeah, and I think just general awareness, right across the board. I think, Roslyn, I think you and I met for the first time in Berkeley.
At your walk.
So long ago. It was at one of the Jill's Legacy Walks, and I think when Emily gets to her story, that will be kind of part of her journey and what kind of went through her head when she was not being properly diagnosed up front. But we met because LCA was going to be doing a walk over there, and we immediately was like, what can we do to help you? Like, what do you guys need? So we've known each other for a long time. Yeah. So what role, I'm kind of skipping a little bit here before I jump over to Emily's story, but what role do you as a caregiver play in all of this? Clearly you're side by side and you're marching the hill and you're hopefully calling that 202 number at least 4 times a day.
Mike Thompson knows us by name. Well, my role as a caregiver, as all you caregivers know, is your focus totally changes from, in my case, I have 4 children, but my youngest was still home, and it shifted from him to him, and that was quite a change for the whole family. As I told Emily, I refuse to look at any information, any statistics or anything. When he would talk about things, he would give me advice. Make sure you keep the house. Make sure you said, don't talk to me about those things. I don't want to. We're not there yet. When we get there, then we'll talk about those things. But we're not there yet. So let's just take it one day at a time, and try to get through today.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my mentality. I think if I had known the statistics, I probably would have been a hot mess. So I was grateful that I didn't know. He's really a miracle guy, because he says, well, I was only stage 1B, but he had a tumor like this big in his lung, and it was just miraculous that it hadn't spread. To me, that's the most amazing part of his story. Even his lymph nodes came back clear, which was, his surgeon said, I would never have, expected that. It was really a shock to her.
But the even more amazing part of his story is that he's fighting so hard for others.
And that was one of the things I wanted to point out, too, when you were talking about being sort of a lightweight in this sort of, right, the heavyweight sort of arena. It doesn't, for the most part, and I think one of the most challenging things in this space is the amount of people affected, whether it be a patient diagnosed at whatever stage or a caregiver that stays involved, that stays active. And I think, again, we could point it back to stigma, we could point it back to a lot of things, but the simple fact that you're how many years out now?
10.
And I say this about her all the time too. You don't have to be here. You don't have to be doing this. You can be on a beach somewhere. She could be on a beach somewhere.
It wouldn't be pretty.
Yeah.
If I could,
we'd get you a really nice cover up.
Okay, maybe a canopy.
If I can speak to that aspect of a little bit, I had already had an uncle and an aunt pass away from lung cancer before he was diagnosed.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh, they had cancer, they passed away. And that's as far as it went in my mind. I never focused on the type of cancer they had. And then we had a good friend of ours who we just saw Sunday. We've kept in touch with her. And she's been active with us and doing some advocacy. Her daughter told us, yeah, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer. And we were like, wow. And so these connections, though, didn't really sink in until he got lung cancer. And then I started looking at, realizing that even my ex-husband's mother died of lung cancer. And the list of people that we have known and lost to lung cancer has become quite long. And not through advocacy, even just family and friends. So this is why when I saw the statistics of the funding and the discrepancy in the dollars, it just, it just rankled me. And when I get rankled, I get really active and I get really noisy. So, when between the two of us, I'm the more vocal of the group. And
but we're just as pissed.
Yeah,
but it's like, this isn't right, and I'm not just going to sit back and let it happen, because my new mantra is, if not us, who? If not now, when?
Yeah.
And this is how I'm living my life these days, because apathy really gets to me, and nothing moves forward with apathy.
I love the mantra. I love the mantra.
And don't we all just have a much better appreciation of, waking up and having a day in front of us? Just one day. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll take one.
I want to be mindful of time, and I want to get to Emily, and I'm going to ask you the sort of questions I asked Frances, and sharing your story and how and why you chose to become an advocate.
Well, the reason I chose to become an advocate is sitting several people down. I always say that Bonnie is a force to be reckoned with, and because when she was diagnosed and when she fought her battle against lung cancer, I always say that she could have, driven off at 100 miles an hour and put cancer in her rearview mirror. But I think the reason that most of us are here and thriving and doing well after this diagnosis is because someone like Bonnie chose to turn around and advocate and push for those that maybe didn't even know they needed the help, or we didn't know we were going to be diagnosed, but you've created this platform of support and help for those of us that were coming in after you. And so, we were connected with you later on, but very early on, before I was diagnosed, I was kind of introduced to advocacy without realizing it. There had been an event for Jill's Legacy, which is a sister organization of the ALCF, and it was for a young 22-year-old who had passed away from lung cancer. And being a college athlete like Jill had been, it really struck me, and I had heard about this from a friend who'd gone to an event. Months later, I developed a cough and a wheeze, and Jill's story, the advocacy events that went on around Jill were what prompted me to ask for a chest X-ray, and what was ultimately led to my diagnosis. So, because of those things, because other people before me had gone on to make an impact in a world that they didn't have, Jill's friends and family brought together Jill's Legacy in her honor, and that has had an impact on me. Bonnie has created this foundation that's had a huge impact on me. I just feel compelled to share my story in a way that will hopefully help other patients that come after me. You amass so much knowledge in your cancer journey, things that you never thought you would have to learn or know, and it doesn't make any sense for me to hold that in to myself. It seems the only appropriate action would be to share that with others. And so as an advocate, I connect with patients through the foundation, newly diagnosed. I think it's mutually beneficial talking about my journey with new patients and trying to help them along the way, and hopefully beneficial for other patients. But then I do speaking engagements because we all know that there are a lot of cancer events out there and a lot of money being raised. We might as well try to nudge that towards lung cancer, as we need it. So yeah, I kind of try to hammer home the fact that, when I walk on stage, I'm fairly certain that most people in the crowd normally think that I'm a breast cancer patient, and I kind of try to use that to my advantage and kind of hammer home the point that, I'm a lung cancer patient. There are more like me. I'm not an anomaly, and we need your help. We need your funding. So that's what brought me to where I am here.
So Emily gave she actually was the keynote at World Lung, and were you in Denver at the World Lung Conference, and it was like you could have heard a pin drop in the room when she was telling her story, and being that advocate. I mean, there was not a dry eye in the house, just and we're at World Lung. I mean, everybody there, they're up to their eyeballs in lung cancer, right? And even they.
This is 6,000 people from around the world gathering for a 3-4 day meeting on lung cancer every year. And I think this was the one in Denver. And Emily did the keynote speech for the opening session. They had never done anything like that before, letting a patient do the keynote speech. But I mean, this is a room full of physicians and clinicians and researchers and whatever. They had no idea that people like Emily or Emily's age got lung cancer.
Well, and I think that's
they
why.
Had no clue.
Yeah, I think that's why this legislation is so important too, to kind of bring it even kind of back around, because I think when most people think about lung cancer, they think of a 85, 90-year-old grandfather sitting on a front porch who smokes 4 packs a day, right? That's what they think about lung cancer. So when you bring someone like Emily, and even when you bring women who are the nurturers, they're the mothers, they're the sisters, they're the best friends, they're the carer-ofs, when you bring that face to the forefront, all of a sudden people kind of go, wait.
They start paying attention.
Well, I think, so, the ALCF has also done a study on young lung cancer, the genomics of young lung cancer. And I'm remembering something my mom always said, what blesses one blesses all. And the point of all this research is that there's more research going into lung cancer. And it may not be the specific group that targets you, and it may not be the specific group that is going to specifically help your diagnosis at this moment. But any research that is benefiting lung cancer is benefiting all lung cancer. We may find something in the Genomics of Young Lung Cancer study that helps all patients, that finds a new mutation and that finds a new targetable mutation. We may find something in this bill that not only helps women, but also helps families or men or children. So, any research that is going towards this overall cause is going to help the overall good of lung cancer patients.
I'm sorry, I thought you were going to say something. No. So I'm going to step back. I'm still trying to be mindful of time. We have about 15 minutes before I have to do the housekeeping stuff.
We have to get the ad up
that's
there.
in the housekeeping.
Yeah.
I think one of the things about Emily's story, just like most of you, is and for sure, like my mom, was the fighting for care, right? And having to literally, I'm not going to say it because it's not going to come out, that would come out terrible, literally get multiple opinions before someone would be like, okay, right? And so what did that journey look like for you?
Up to my diagnosis?
Up into somebody who would do surgery.
Oh, yeah. So, stage 4 surgery is not standard of care. As anyone diagnosed with lung cancer knows, the first thing you want is to just cut it out of you. You want to be rid of this invader of your body. And from day one, I talked to my oncologist and I pushed for surgery. And she was kind and listened, but told me that it wasn't an option. But we continued to seek surgical opinions and seek out someone who is willing to look outside the box and someone who is willing to push the envelope for what I wanted, which was surgery. So it's not possible in every case, and as Bonnie was saying, every single lung cancer case is different. But that doesn't mean you should stop trying, and that doesn't mean you should stop looking for a way out of your situation. And for me, I felt that was surgery. It came in combination with, I had to go through chemo first and have shrinkage that was commensurate with the amount that my surgeon wanted. But, we found a surgeon in New York who was willing to look at me as an individual and not as a statistic. And I think that that's a really important, it's a really important thing for all patients to find that doctor, surgeon, radiologist, chemotherapy, or oncologist, someone who will look at you as a patient and not as a statistic. Because for me, that was the difference maker. We found someone that was willing to go down that route with us and do the surgery and then follow that up with radiation.
And I think that's so important because your story is not so dissimilar. I mean, it's the same thing. And I can't remember what it was you said when asked the question, what do you want?
I was told by quite a few different entities and hospitals and physicians and whatever that there was nothing they could do. That, a little chemo, a little of this, and, whatever.
Hopefully, yeah.
And so I found myself finally with somebody that said, Bonnie, what do you want from me? And I said, if I'm going to die from lung cancer, I don't want it to be because I did nothing. And I didn't push the envelope. So I want you to give me everything you've got. I don't care how toxic it is. My ultimate goal is surgery. My tumor was on my heart. And I had a physician that, like Emily's, that said, okay, that's what you want. I'm willing to take this ride with you. Not a lot of people out there like that.
Yeah, and
that'll go the journey.
And to Emily's point, every patient is different. So not everyone, no matter how hard they push, is even going to find that option, right? And there's so many different things so many different variables that ultimately lead to a physician finally saying, okay.
But to Bonnie's point, it's up to us as the patients to try.
To have the conversation.
And this has led to many surgeons being open to managing stage 4 lung cancer, including surgery, maybe doing a wedge resection or stereotactic radiation upon progression and managing that way. That wasn't happening 5, 6, 7 years ago. So all good news. Things are changing. Things are happening. There's hope.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
If you have a doctor who does not have an open mind,
find one that does.
Just get rid of them. Get another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are your own best advocate. You know, doctors, and everyone has gone into that profession with the best of intentions, but no one cares more about you and your health than you.
Yeah.
Right.
So you have to be the one that's fighting and constantly asking
Being
those
a
questions.
patient advocate, that is key.
Yeah, and be your own advocate.
So I want to swing it back around before we go to any final comments, but just ask everyone on the panel and around the room, any final messages for Congress at this time around this legislation or what's going on? Any asks, any pleas, any final comments?
Well, we can tell them that if they need more information, to go sit in the lung cancer caucus. That's really the clearinghouse of information to Congress.
So this is a good point, because I don't think a lot of people know what a lung cancer caucus is. So maybe Elridge, if you could explain that.
Absolutely, and thank you so much, Francis, for touching on some key areas. So in making friends among Congress, trying to get those key policymakers who say to us, we understand what you're trying to do, we agree with you, and we're going to help you. Members have formed a committee known as a Congressional Lung Cancer Caucus. They exist in so many different forms. Often in times you hear it referenced in terms of party, the Republican caucus, the Democratic caucus, but there's caucuses for a number of issues, and we happen to have a Congressional Lung Cancer Caucus because of advocacy that came from advocates and working with Lung Cancer Alliance.
We got that.
We did that. That's right. That's right. So having that opportunity to work with a group, a body of members of Congress who are saying to us they agree and want to address issues of lung cancer, you now have somewhere to go and somewhere to send your representatives to the clearinghouse, and that's the caucus.
Yep. Sorry, Francis, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood.
No, I just wanted to throw it.
Yeah.
No, but it's important to, because they will find ways to not engage. So you have to keep them honest and just tell them you can do this, 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 and this. Make it binary where they cannot cop out.
Right.
And do you think that's because we're not the only people knocking on their doors, right?
Pardon?
We're not the only people knocking on their
that's
doors.
true. No,
We just need to
absolutely.
make them the most
Absolutely.
important people knocking on their doors. Yeah. Roslyn, do you have any final?
Well, I do want to bring up something that is a state issue, so you could contact your state assembly person. I really encourage you all to do this. One of our LCA advocates, Ken Wheatley, who lives in Southern California, actually worked on the California State Cancer Plan to make sure that lung cancer was included, and because it was never included before. So, yeah, shocking. So he was successful in that, but it is stalled and it has not been implemented.
Published.
It hasn't been published.
It hasn't been published.
So we need all of you to contact your state assembly people and say, we understand there's a state cancer plan, it includes lung cancer.
Where is it?
We need this cancer plan to be moved forward in the state legislation. So please contact your state assembly person and ask for this. I don't know if you're aware of it, Bonnie?
Yeah, and also it's okay to say that Senator Dianne Feinstein is backing this, and we have major support on this.
Right, yeah.
So
but this is a state issue, not federal, but it's just as important.
But she lives here.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Everybody knows who she is.
And I think it's important for the people online too, regardless of what state you might be dialing in from or coming back and watching this after. We're not just talking about California because we happen to be sitting here right now.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we've said over and over, this is a national issue.
Every state should have a cancer plan, and every state's cancer plan should include lung cancer.
In each state and federally. We have to fight it in both ways.
Absolutely. And you can also ask your congressman to push the state in that direction, although they work more on a federal level, but they can at least make a phone call.
Any messages for Congress, even if it's a plea? I mean, we've got video, so that might help too.
So, I try to think of myself sometimes as just a cancer patient, because there's no one cancer that's more deserving than others. We just happen to be in the lung cancer space right now. And I think, as a lung cancer patient, I often get a pit in my stomach when I see pink everything. And it's not that this is an issue of us versus another cancer or us versus any other cancer. Or it's an issue of us wanting to get the funds that other cancers have benefited from and the treatments that other cancers have benefited from, and asking for commiserate funding for that, so that our cancer can enjoy the same survival statistics that other cancers have enjoyed over the last several decades, as funding has increased for different cancers. So it's time for some white ribbons, and it's time for more awareness and more funding and better cures for patients in the lung cancer space, as well as in other spaces. It's not a battle. It's all of us joining together.
If you look at the fact that Richard Nixon declared war on cancer in 1971, 81, 91, 2001, 2011, and 1.6 million people are diagnosed with lung cancer every year, and their survival rate is only 15%. What that means is we've lost somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 million people.
Yeah, it's
Where
almost
on earth is that okay?
433 people a day is about 160,000 a year. If you think about watching the Super Bowl, that's almost three Super Bowl stadiums filled with people, and every single one of them is dying every year from lung cancer.
Right.
And this is a national epidemic that deserves the kind of funding and better cures and research that other cancers have benefited
And awareness and
Per
attention.
Nancy Brinker, breast cancer caught early, 99% survival rate. That's what we want.
I think one of the things I want to point out, because it was a lesson very well learned when I was in Washington, D.C., by one of the aides, and I don't remember where we were or who we were speaking with, but it goes back to Emily's point about cancer sucking no matter what kind it is, right? And it's about trying to point out the inequalities, right? Not necessarily pointing a finger, because whoever we were speaking to, she said, and I wish I could remember her name, maybe
It was
you will.
Spire's aide.
I think it was.
Yeah.
And it was her sister or her friend or somebody who was her mother who was battling breast cancer. And she said, if you come here saying, but the pink and but the why, you don't know who you're talking to and what battle they might be fighting themselves, right? So it's just a cautionary statement when you are having, and I really hope everybody does have, that to Emily's point, it's not calling out anyone else. It's basically saying we matter
want a seat
too.
at the table.
Yeah, we want a seat. We
We
matter.
admire what they've done, and we want to be able to do the same thing.
Yeah, that was a big point for me. I was like, ooh. 'Cause it's not something you think about, right? Anyway, any comments from the audience or anyone online before I say my thank yous? Because we've got about 6 minutes left. No? We're good. Yeah, I'm probably going to need 6 minutes for my announcements.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to all of you for coming and talking about this so important topic. I know it's something that we've been wanting to talk about for a long time, and really get the word out, and really in a way, and from people who know what they're talking about when it comes to this space. We are going to repost that phone number up online. And please don't forget, and if anybody needs it afterwards, you can reach out to us. But the email, is it lungcanceralliance.org or lca.org, or do both of them work? They probably both work. So Lung Cancer Alliance or lca.org, where you can go and through their portal online, do it from your own living rooms. I think it's so important. So thank you all very much for coming and talking with us about this. Thank you all, obviously, in the room. And everyone online. Oh, we want to clap first. I do want to reiterate, and Rocky, I think this is something we sent you that you can put up on the screen for folks who are signing in about the Life and Breath Rally. There we go.
There we go.
I've got these for anybody in the room who wants to take the trip to DC on April 26th, or to be there by April 26th, which means you have to leave here the 25th. Or anybody who online who might be watching or comes back and watches in the area who wants to participate. I think it's a great cause. There's been several plugs for it. You can see up here what this is about, and this is kind of going back to the 433 people a day. And we used to use an analogy here all the time, and several people did, and it kind of got lost, but it was about, the jumbo jet falling out of the sky. And if that happened every day, how many days would it take before somebody, the government, stood up and said, hold on, we're shutting down the FAA, something is going on here, right? It's the same thing. This is really important. So please, if you're interested and or if you know anyone who is, family, friends, anyone in the DC area, and if you want more information, like I said, we've got the flyers for you guys to take with you, and anyone online who hasn't already screenshotted this, if you give us a call, we'll give you all of the information. We're also going to roll it out on social media, so you'll be able to find it there. So I got to talk a little bit about next up. I had Tina's birthday written on here, but I already called her out on that. So happy birthday again. Afterwards, for those in the room, there's some dessert to celebrate Tina's birthday with her in the back up here. So next ups, our next living room is actually a remote living room, and it's April 5th in Columbus, Ohio. Dr. David Carbone and Carolyn Presley are going to be talking about advances in molecular testing, targeted therapies, and immunotherapies, and how to manage the side effects. There have been some very unique side effects, especially with some of these next generation drugs and therapies. So I think it's going to be a great meeting. Those of you in the room, unless you're in Columbus, if you are, you're welcome to come, but otherwise you can absolutely sign in through the YouTube live stream and watch there. David Carbone has been a huge friend of the foundation for a very long time, and we're really excited to be able to bring this to his hometown. On the heels of that, we will be having a 5K in Columbus as well.
Yes, we will.
And that's May 6th. So anybody, again, who knows people in Columbus, who wants to be in Columbus, please come back to us and ask for more information about that event. We're really excited. It's our first ever. So
well, actually, we had a run in Columbus, Ohio.
Was it in Columbus or Cleveland?
Columbus. Yeah,
Was it in
at
Columbus?
the James.
Yeah.
But it was snowing, and there weren't many people there. David Carbone and I were sitting in a car, and it was snowing. We had the heater on there like this.
I have to tell you, I had a phone call Michelle set up for me on Monday, I think, and it was with Dr. Carbone, and he was on his cell phone sitting on a plane on the runway in Rome. On his way to Sicily for a couple of days holiday, and then he was headed to Madrid for a meeting. But that's how dedicated he is. He was, sitting on the airplane, wanting to make sure that we had all our ducks in a row. So anyway, April 5th, remote living room, Columbus, Ohio. Remote, or not remote, but our 5K in Columbus is May 6th. Our second remote living room in April. So we have 3 living rooms in April. We're not going to be busy with this at all. Is in Memphis, Tennessee, with Dr. O, who has come here and spoken at the living room before. I'm not going to try to do his last name because every time I do,
He's a surgeon. He's amazing.
I'm going to spell it just because if anybody can do it. It's OsarogIagbon.
OsarogIagbon.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He's at Baptist Cancer Center in Memphis, Tennessee. He was one of our very first centers of excellence and is a true champion in the lung cancer space. So we're very, very happy to be doing a remote living room with him. And our very own Leah Fine, who's sitting up there,
she is.
On the counter in the back, who's the director of our Center of Excellence program. They're going to be talking about improving lung cancer care and outcomes in the community setting, which, as you all know, because we talk about all the time, a little more than 80% of cancer patients are seen in their own communities. So we're really trying to identify centers who are providing those academic type standards in the community, but we're also trying to help those who want to build these comprehensive lung programs, beginning with screening and early detection, running through proper upfront diagnostics, therapies, support, and survivorship to fruition for those who have an interest. So,
and the importance of that is patient access close to home, because we're really fortunate. Some people are fortunate in certain states, and we know what those states are, that you have access to a major academic center, but that's not the case everywhere. So our goal is for patients to have access to academic care, like care, 50 to 80 miles minimum from their home.
And then we will be having our first ever Memphis 5K as well. So same story applies. If you want it, if you've never been to Tennessee and you're dying to go to Memphis, please come join us. Otherwise, if you're online and you're from there, please come join us. Or if you know people there, friends, family, old college roommates, anybody. So that's April 22nd. Our regularly scheduled living room for April 17th. We've got Dr. Jack West coming from Swedish Medical Center up in Seattle.
Amazing guy.
Yep.
Grace. And have you ever got on Grace's
and
blog?
Jack's talked at the living room before.
Yeah, he has.
He's got an amazing personality. He's insanely passionate about lung cancer. He does run Cancer Grace, which we're absolutely going to be talking about that night. But he's going to be coming in to talk about immunotherapy and combination therapies. And what that looks like now and what it's going to look like in the future and how it is really starting to become a therapy that's any patient, regardless of what mutation they may or may not be diagnosed with. Immunotherapy is really turning towards a therapy in combination or as a single agent that is going to be at the forefront of every patient's life. So exciting things happening. And I think, now I gotta do my thank yous because I have 44 seconds.
Okay, you have 44 seconds, go.
I did not introduce Jan.
Where's Jan? Jan, stand up, hurry up. You got 37
So
seconds.
Jan Alott, who's standing, we're gonna probably go over by 30 seconds, but that's okay. In the back of the room, as you guys all know, Sam left us a month or so ago now, who was in charge of marketing here. Jan has come in, and we are so excited to have her. Today is her second official day here at the foundation. So big hugs and warm welcomes are a must. We're very, very excited to have Jan on board and be part of this crazy team. So,
rev up the engines. This is your last calm day.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah. So thank you, Jan. I wanna finish up with. Oh God! I get so nervous when the buzzer goes off. With my thank yous, obviously Penn TV, who I know I say it the same or maybe not the same every month. I don't know, but I cannot thank them enough. And if any of you showed up here, I'm not asking you to, but if any of you actually please don't, but if you did, unless you need us for something, at about 2:30 you would see them setting all of this stuff up. It really is a ton of work for them, and they do it with, is it 3 o'clock? What did I do? She's already leaving the meeting. Look at and they really do an amazing job, and they are a huge part of the extended ALCF team. So a huge thank you to Penn TV, the Office Bar and Grill for the pesto and the salad, the ALCF staff, who every single person who works here has a role to play, either behind the scenes or otherwise, in this meeting and making it possible.
Or works remotely.
Or yes, anybody who, yes, for sure. Huh? I know. And especially the ones who are here all the time, like Jen, who's standing back there looking for me to say something. I do not have my thank yous down here so I'm gonna just shout it out if I forget. So it's BMS, Genentech, Lilly, Astellas, Novartis, Celgene, Merck. I said BMS, didn't I? Bristol Myers Squibb.
Yeah.
And I always write it down because there's so many people.
Oh,
Without their support, we absolutely could not bring this to any of you in the room, let alone the people that we bring it to worldwide every year. So thank you so much to them for their support of this amazing program. Last but not least, and most importantly, thank you to all of you, the patients and the caregivers in the room, who we do this for gladly every single day, for everything you bring to the table to us. The reminders that you give us and anybody that comes back and watches about why we do what we do every day and why it's so important. And thank you for what you bring to one another and for sharing this venue with all the people who get to come back and watch it. So thank you. Now let's eat cake.
And if you live in the area and you can't sleep at night, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, channel what? 26. 26. You could see this all over again.